Hello and welcome everyone to Wellness Wednesday. I'm your host, Carla Coleman, Director of Communications for New Salem Baptist Church in Columbus, Ohio. And so just come on into the chat, come on and join us. Let's take a little time, send the link out to your friends and family. Hopefully they can come and join us tonight as well because we are going to talk about food. Today's topic is nutrition and cultural foods, and we have our guest, Yolanda Scott, RDLD, who is the lead dietitian at Foundations Health Solutions. This is a good topic as we're on our way to the holiday, which is coming up this weekend. So we can talk about some of our favorite foods, and Yolanda's here to help us. Now, Yolanda is a registered dietitian. She's been this for 25 years with a primary focus on long-term care. Together, we're going to talk about healthy food choices. We're going to take a look at some of African American cultural choices or soul food, and we're going to talk about creating a healthy eating plan and how we can eat some of the foods that we love and still remain healthy. She's going to also talk about some of the foods that nutrient needs of our seniors and how to meet those needs. So Yolanda, welcome. Welcome to Wellness
Hi,
Wednesday. Glad to have you.
thank you.
Why don't you
Thank you.
tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into the conversation?
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate Wednesdays following up and being having sharing an interest in nutrition. Again, I'm Yolanda Scott. I've been a registered dietitian for over 25 years with a primary focus in geriatrics, malnutrition, end of life, and now cultural food needs of African Americans. Recently elected to dietetics in healthcare communities. It's the governing arm of the American Dietetic Association. It gives me a place at the table where policy is being made for our diet in terms of foods that will be on menus in facilities around the country, assisted livings, nursing home facilities, as well as I'm on the Ohio Board of Nutrition and Dining. That's another arm for assisted living, long-term care policymakers. And we look at what the needs are and as well as what cultural foods impact the Black community.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, sometimes when you think about food choices and especially in geriatric settings, we don't always see something that we would like to eat, and we want to make sure that people
And
are eating and they can find something that they want to eat, but it's still healthy.
it's a
Yep.
very difficult transitional time. And when other
Mhm.
cultures come into nursing facilities, we don't ask Asians to give up all their food. We don't ask Jewish people to give up their food. We don't ask Anglo Saxons to give up their food. But we're expected to give up our food in addition to our loved ones when we come into this type of setting. So
Mhm.
I think it's already shown that it has a pivotal impact on the way the menus are developed for facilities.
Yeah. So, what are some of the things that you do as far as developing those menus?
Well, I don't develop the menus per se. I take the recommendations of what the residents eat and give those to a
Mhm.
developer. My
Okay.
primary function is assessing lab data, looking at their diagnosis, and making the appropriate recommendations based on their medical condition. I never
Hmm.
touch food, see food, order food, anything with food. No cooking. It's all from the scientific bodily aspect of their nutritional care.
Hmm. Okay. But once they get your recommendations, then they find a way to make sure that they're meeting your recommendations. That's awesome.
Yes,
So,
that's
one
correct.
of the things I think you were going to do for us was to, before we even got into the conversation, was to define senior versus elderly. Can you do
That's
that for us?
that's a critical standpoint because nutrition through the life cycle, we spend a lot of time on infants, we spend a lot of time on adolescent nutrition, pregnant women,
Hmm.
lactating women. We don't
Hmm.
spend enough time on the senior population. And for senior for the purpose of this discussion, is 55 through 65.
Okay.
Elderly is considered 65 through 75, and the aged elderly is 75 and up. So
Mm,
at 55, which I'm a member of, that category, we start to look at how we're going to eat for the next chapter of our life. What kind of health
mhm,
do we want to be for the next chapter? Be it retirement. A lot of us are still working, but perhaps we're empty nesters. Perhaps we're
right.
caregivers to both ends of the spectrum, being smaller children to our grandparents or parents. So, what do we need to maintain a healthy lifestyle? And I mean energy, less disease, and just a state
Mhm,
of overall wellness.
mhm. And that's a hard pivot. It really is for someone our age. I mean, you've been able to up to a point you thought you could eat just anything, whatever you felt like eating. But now I'm finding for myself that there are certain things that I just can't eat anymore. They don't,
And I
it
tell
doesn't sit
you,
well with me. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you what happens. That's very true. Several disease processes are taking place as we age, and one of them
Mm-hmm.
is a decrease in our metabolism. Very often someone will tell me, well, I really don't eat much. I don't know why I'm gaining weight. Well, I do, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe you, you don't eat much. But with the lower metabolism, you have less muscle mass, and muscle mass is the active source of energy for our body. And without that, if we don't change anything else, we have a tendency to continue to gain weight. In addition, our digestive system ages as we age, and we don't have as many digestive fluids. So sometimes we get indigestion, and that can work as also in the opposite way of constipation. In addition, as we're aging, very often we have other disease processes going on that require medication. Between 55 and 65, any of us are taking 1 to 5 pills a day for some disease process. When that
Mm-hmm.
happens, we looked at the risk benefit. The taking the medication is the benefit. Some of the risks are decreased appetite, overeating, cotton mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the
Mm-hmm.
clients will tell me that food tastes metallic, foods have an off
Mm-hmm.
taste. So we're dealing with all of those things as well. And something new that I've discovered over this last year is the fact of the pandemic and social isolation. A lot of seniors have less appetite, don't want to eat, or not as social. And that has had an
Mm-hmm.
impact, something that we haven't had to look at before coming out of the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic as a
Mm-hmm.
factor for changing nutritional needs.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so important to be able to find things that you like to eat as well that's healthy. As you said, everyone's dealing with mental health and some of the things that that isolation, with the pandemic, etc. How do you make it, you know, exciting or at least
Well,
interesting to eat?
well, I like to focus on a lot of times what you can eat. And
Okay.
as we age, we have a decreased need for vitamin C and calcium. Vitamin C
Mm,
is so important. It's typically called the sunshine vitamin because it can be absorbed from the sun as well as through fortified foods. Why this is important? Because it helps with bone maturity. A lack of vitamin C can cause depression, frailty of bones, and we know as we age, if we take a fall, that could have a significant impact. Um, the recommendations for vitamin D and calcium are increased for women between 51 and 70. We need 1,300 milligrams a day, whereas a 13-year-old or 18-year-old only needs 1,200 milligrams a day. So
mm,
this is a vitamin and a mineral that work hand in hand to provide safe and strong bones. You get those foods, those high vitamin D foods, from fatty fish such as mackerel, salmon, sardines, or green leafy vegetables. The calcium portion are from dairy products. And it's consistent with African Americans being lactose intolerant that it's very difficult for us to meet those calcium needs. So I really want
Mhm.
to drill down when I'm interviewing a client to talk about, do they eat yogurt? Do they drink milk? Do they eat skim
Mhm.
milk? Quite often they like their calcium from vegetables, such as the green leafy kind.
Okay. Mhm. Yeah. So, are there special nutrients that seniors need that they really need to have, especially when they get to be our age?
Well, let's look at one of the most basic ones, and that's water. We really don't
Mm.
hydrate enough. A minimum
Mm.
of 6 to 8 glasses of water a day would be beneficial.
Okay.
It helps in our elimination as
Mhm.
well as hydration of our skin, our complexion, and sometimes you get a little delirium when you're not adequately hydrated, a little confusion.
Mm.
So it's real
Mhm.
important. And in taking a diet history from someone, they very often only drink maybe a cup of coffee. Very good, very good. They may only drink a cup of water in the morning with their medication,
Mhm.
and they're counting
Mm.
coffee and sweetened
Mhm.
beverages. And I'm
Mm.
counting that as an additional. I need to see you
Okay.
drink water.
Mhm. Mhm. So, can you say that one more time? How much water should we be drinking per day?
Six 6 to 8 glasses a day. I'll show you.
Okay.
Oh, like this.
Whoa. Okay. And if you take it in,
So we
if
can
you do
stay
it,
hydrated.
okay. So wait a minute. Do you have a straw that you put in that big container of yours, or do you
There.
have a? Oh, okay. There you go. All right. Great. Because I'm thinking that you be taking in small, this kind of small doses each throughout the day, you can get that in. You really can.
And no other beverage. You have to be
Mhm.
intentional with it. There's no other,
Mhm.
I don't drink anything else other than my coffee in the morning, and the entire
Mhm.
time that I'm in the office, I drink water.
Mhm.
And
Right.
if you are not intentional about our choices, it's like credit. You're going to have to pay on the back end. You can't just live a
Mhm.
life of eating whatever you
Mhm.
want and not
Mhm.
see some repercussions of it. And this
Mhm.
is a time where we want to be active, and we don't want any of
Yeah.
those types of things backfire. I prepared like a little quiz, and I just want people to think in the back of their minds if the answer is yes or no. And that
Okay.
will define how much, you don't have to write anything down, how many changes or how how far you have to drill down to get a better diet. And the first question is, do you eat more than half of your meals from a box, a can, a bottle, or a jar? A box. How much macaroni and cheese in a box do you eat? Hamburger helper, tuna helper.
Mm.
A jar, spaghetti sauce, fettuccine sauce, any type of sauces. A bottle,
Mhm.
salad dressing, or a
Mhm.
canned vegetables and canned fruit. Just
Mhm.
yes or no in your mind. How
Mhm.
much prepackaged meals do you eat? Do you eat prepackaged for breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Is it more than once a week? Twice a week? Do you consume a lot of pasta, bread, and white rice? And if
Mhm.
so, is it lunch and dinner, or just lunch, or once or twice a week? How about cakes, cookies, pies, donuts, and desserts? Those are the big ones. Are you having that
Mhm.
more than once a week? Do you
Mm.
use margarine or butter? How much
Ah.
water are you drinking? And do you
Yeah.
consume ground meats 2 to 3 times a week? And by ground meats, I mean fast food hamburgers.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
Hey,
about
Carla.
sweet tea or
Hey,
other
Carla.
sweetened
If you could write this
beverages?
down for me, I'll put it on a poll for everybody.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. I don't know if we can
Okay.
do that in time, but go ahead. Yeah, because
What
we've been
about
setting out some
sweetened
polls, and this would have
vegetables?
been a great one. Go ahead, Yolanda.
Okay. Sweetened tea, such as Kool-Aid or iced tea, or even sugar in your coffee. How often are you doing that?
Mhm.
And pork. How often a week are you eating pork? If you
Mhm.
answered, which most people do, yes to these primary questions, your diet is set up to have problems in the end, in the long term. You need to look at just these items and start pulling back. I am surprised and not sometimes how often I meet African Americans who've never followed a diet. You and I may think that it's just universal. They've been told, and I'm talking about the 75 and up, they've been told to watch their sugar because they have diabetes. They've been told to lower their salt intake, but what does that mean? How does that translate into what they're allowed to eat and what they can eat? I spend the majority of my time talking about what you can eat and keeping it culturally appropriate. For instance, the categories that we just talked about in that poll, an excess of that in your diet leads to inflammation. And inflammation is the primary cause of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, all of the big items for us. So if we were to just take those 10 questions and modify, we would our nutritional and have a better form of life. I don't know about weight loss. I rarely talk about weight loss because if you're doing this 80% of the time, the weight loss will follow.
Interesting. Wow. That, when you start to think about it, I mean, a lot of people just, oh, I'll just have some spaghetti tonight. Oh, I'll just have this. And they don't really think about how much pasta, how much sugar, they're actually ingesting throughout the week. And, I took some time a couple of years ago to actually look at just how much I was ingesting. And it was amazing. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of sugar. And a lot of
Well,
it
let's
is.
look at no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say a lot of it was in what we were drinking.
Well, let's look at 4 tips that you can do today after you get off Wellness Wednesday that can have a significant impact in your diet. Whether you're young, old, or old, or senior, if you were to take just half of your plate, starting with your dinner meal, and make half of it vegetables and a side serving of fruit, don't even touch the meat or anything else that you were having. No starch. Gradually increase the amount of fruits and vegetables that you consume. And you start by your plate. Whatever you typically eat, double it for in terms of your vegetables. And incorporate a fruit. Do people ask me, what's better, fresh, frozen, canned? I just want to see you eating vegetables first. Let's just start there. The second thing, when you grocery shop, this is pivotal because our nutritional needs are made in the grocery store. They're not made at home. They're not made at lunch. When you are shopping for your family or yourself, everything you pick up is going to have an impact on your diet and on your health. So a quick rule of thumb that I use and recommend is compare all of your items while you're shopping and just compare the sodium intake. You pick up a can of green beans by Del Monte and you pick up a can of green beans Giant Eagle. One has 440 milligrams of sodium, the other has 300. Purchase the 300 one. That is how you start. When you get home, drain it, rinse it, and prepare it your normal way. And we'll talk about some food preparation in a moment. But more vegetables on your plate. Second, compare your sodium intake. Make mental decisions in the supermarket regarding your health. And bread, starches, pasta, rice, select whole grain whenever possible. So whole wheat bread, not white whole wheat bread. Some of the ancient grains like millet, steel cut oats, barley, things that our grandparents ate are really good selections in terms of fiber and complex carbohydrates. Those are all things that you can do starting today that's going to have a significant impact in the long run. It's small, consistent changes over time that produce health.
Excellent. Excellent. Great. We have a few questions in the chat. So you want to take a few
Okay.
questions? Yeah. Well,
Yes, absolutely.
before we do, can you go through the four quick tips one more time? Just kind of a quick summary
Sure.
before we. Yeah.
Half your plate, half your plate and vegetables, a serving of fruit on the side. That's one. The
Hmm.
second one is compare your sodium levels of all the food. I just went through canned green beans, but sodium
Okay.
level of frozen food, one item to another. Third, whole grain products for your wheat, pasta, and breads. And the
Nice.
fourth
Nice.
one, enjoy your food. We didn't get
Oh,
to this age to be miserable with eating. I don't want to see my seniors counting macros and micros and milligrams, and that's not the beauty of aging gracefully, having energy,
yeah.
enjoying your family. The beauty is eating healthily, small amounts, real food, and feeling good about it. And that's the way it should
Mhm.
be.
Great. Yeah, the real food. That's the part of it, and
Yeah,
not
real
a
food.
lot of the not a lot of the processed foods. Yeah, some of the
No.
more of the whole foods. Yeah. Okay, so here's a question. I drink a lot of tea. I know there's caffeine. Is that okay for me?
Well, I tell you what, that's a great question, and it is one of the foods that I look at in recommending to reduce inflammatory process. Just switch
Mm.
your tea to green tea. It has a
Hmm.
little bit of caffeine, but a lot of phytonutrients. It's wonderful. If you're trying to progress off of coffee, switch to a green tea like a matcha tea. They have them in different flavors now. The one that's probably the best is blueberries because berries have an incredible amount of anti-inflammatory properties. So
Okay.
switch to green tea, blueberry flavor.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, that was my biggest switch, and I drink lots of tea all day. I start out with green, then I go to a lemon ginger, and then at night I drink chamomile tea to relax me. So it was something that I felt that at least if I can't drink my soda, at least I have something else to enjoy.
Yeah,
Excellent.
sodas are empty calories. I really try and discourage. So there's a time and a place, but most of the time it's no. Some of the other foods that have anti-inflammatory properties that I direct people to are the fatty fish, and the
Mhm.
number one being salmon, mackerel, sardines. I can remember as a child, my grandmother would make codfish balls and
Mhm.
salmon patties. We don't hardly see that anymore, but that is a wonderful source of um, omega-3 fatty acids, as well as the bones have concentrated sources of nutrients. If you make a sandwich and just use sardine, olive oil, tomato, it's a nutrient-packed sandwich. You may have to brush your teeth after, but it is very, very nutrient dense.
Say that one
In
more
addition to
time.
that,
Say
what?
that
I'm
one more
sorry.
time. What was that you said you
Whole
create?
wheat toast,
Uh-huh.
whole wheat toast, salmon and bones that have been packed in olive oil, and a slice of
Okay.
tomato on top.
Oh, that sounds good. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, and that's what we used to eat. What about codfish balls and salmon cakes? Those were things that our
Hmm.
grandmothers would make. We can go back to
Hmm.
making that. It has you can put green peppers in there, a little butter, a little whole wheat pancos, bread dressing. Open a can
Hmm.
of salmon or codfish, make the patties, saute them. That's an excellent meal with a side salad. We don't
Hmm.
go for those things anymore.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
broccoli is good.
Hmm.
All the cruciferous vegetable family. Cauliflower has made a resurgence. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, those will really help decrease and make us feel better. It helps to alleviate pain as well. And
Hmm.
sometimes when people suffer with diseases other than the big ones, such as diabetes and heart disease, We also look at arthritis that has an
Mm.
impact on what you eat, and that can be
Mhm.
beneficial.
Mhm. Okay, great. Yeah, you're right. My grandparents and my mom used to make salmon cakes and pull out my dad pulled out the sardines and crackers.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah,
There's
things.
they're wonderful health foods, and that is what I spend a lot of times re-educating. Our diet has gotten a bad rap, and
Mhm.
obviously so, but it was developed from scraps. We had
Mhm.
poor nutrition
True.
and no resources.
Mhm.
So we were given the scraps of the better part of food. It wasn't because
Mhm.
we chose to do that. And even under those circumstances, our ancestors were able to make food taste delicious. They were
Delicious. Yeah.
wonderful. That's why they're so have so much impact and meaning to us. And what I find phenomenal are the young millennials, 30, 40-year-olds who are going out and becoming vegetarians. They're carrying
Mhm.
on that tradition now because their food tastes spectacular.
Yeah,
We
they
just
do.
need to try it. I would love for more people to support or visit a vegetarian restaurant and try one item. I try to tell
Mhm.
my family at holidays we're going to have one vegetarian course so that we just gradually make the transition away from
Mhm.
meat. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
impactful, doesn't have to be your whole day every day, but some
Mhm.
parts of it.
Mhm. I think that's interesting that you bring forth the historical perspective because you're absolutely right. Generations before us didn't have as much meat available, so they spent
They
most
were
of the money.
given
Go ahead.
they were given corn and pork. That's what
Mhm.
and they eventually, if you were a good worker, you got molasses and
Mhm.
potatoes. And that is
Mhm.
where all of our best meals come from. But it's in the preparation. The foods are not the culprit, it's in the
Mhm.
preparation. So let's
Mhm.
look at chicken. We love chicken. I love chicken. Everybody loves chicken.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be fried. It was fried because they were given flour and meal,
Yeah.
breading it to make it taste good and deep fat frying it. They had the
Mhm.
lard from the pigs that were slaughtered to
Sure.
fry it in.
Mhm.
We can
Mhm.
love chicken baked and coated. We don't have to have chicken breast. The
Right.
Mediterranean diet was designed in Italy, and it's a wonderful diet. They have longevity. But when I talk
Mhm.
to a client about avocados and
Mhm.
olive oil, it's foreign. It won't be
Mhm.
foreign for 2 generations from now. I
Right.
really feel good about the direction we're going. But for the
Mhm.
people who are loved ones who I'm counseling now, it's foreign.
Right.
So, in terms of avocados, I don't recommend avocado. I'll recommend
Mm.
a smashed banana, chia
Okay.
seeds,
Mhm.
hummus. Hummus is made from chickpea. I'm
Mhm.
from the South and we love red beans. You can make a red bean hummus that tastes 25 times better than a chickpea hummus. But
Really?
who's thought of it? I mean, who's going to tell them that you can have that? And you can dip
Mhm.
your celery and your carrots and everything just like you would if it were the regular hummus.
Hummus. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Chia seeds are a wonderful substitute for avocados. You can have that in the morning with just a couple of tablespoons over your steel cut oatmeal.
Mhm.
Grits, I don't like to do a lot of grits because it is a white flour, but
Yeah.
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 And
Mm.
our sweet potato hash browns are another good
Mm.
breakfast item.
Mhm. Okay, that's making me hungry. Okay. There's another question in the chat here, and that is how soon after making these changes in diet can you notice a difference?
Well, here's the thing. Don't get on the scale because the scales
Mm.
lie. Don't get on the scale. You'll be miserable. I've thrown out 3 or 4 scales in my lifetime. Don't get on the scale. you will begin to notice non-scale victories. In the first, I really believe you'll have more energy. You will feel good. Your elimination will be better. You will feel so much better. And ultimately, that is what we want. If you feel good, you have the ability to make better food choices. 90 days is a good ballpark. Let me see, I had some string. 90 days is a good ballpark. Hold on, I have something.
Okay. 90 days. Excellent.
I like to talk to my residents about the string method
Ooh, I love
for
props.
weight loss and how's that going. And you take a string and you wrap it around your abdomen, and wherever it stops, that's the length of your waist. Your goal is to have a smaller waist. That's how you know you're feeling better, you're following the plan, you're making appropriate changes. Your waistline will become smaller. And each time, I would only do it maybe every 4 or 6 weeks. You take another string and see the difference and compare the two versus getting on the scale. And that'll help you look at how effective it's being versus getting on the scale and just being frustrated. Because these are, it's said so often, lifestyle changes, but it just becomes trite. But there's no other way to wellness but to do the work. There's no other way to get there. And consistent small changes pay off. And another way you may notice is not with the waist, but how you feel, the energy. And when you go to your physician for your checkups, you may not need as much medication. That is a positive impact.
That would
That
be
that
very
will give you
positive.
some encouragement that you're going in the right direction.
Absolutely. That would be a big win. A big win. Wow. I saw the question, but I didn't expect that answer. That's awesome. There's another question in the chat here. There's one. Let's see, where'd it go? Here we go. I'll try this one. How do you how do you eat vegetarian when you are supposed to have low carbs?
How do you eat vegetarian when you're supposed to have low carbs? You're not supposed to do anything. The type of carbs, there are two types primarily: refined and complex. You can eat vegetarian because vegetarian in its name means reduction in meat. There's no supposed to. Our bodies are energy sources. The number one fuel for our body is carbohydrate. That is a misnomer that we shouldn't have carbohydrates. It's the type. Stick with complex carbohydrates, such as whole grains, whole wheats, steel cut oats, high fiber cereals, high fiber pastas.
Good. Okay,
Some
there's another
other
question. Oh, go
okay.
ahead. Keep going.
I was just going through a list because I have a list of foods you can have.
Oh, good.
We didn't talk about berries. We didn't talk about berries. Berries are phenomenal. Brain health, antioxidants. I don't care what kind of berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. I'll even throw watermelon in there.
Wow.
Every meal, if you can have berries, that is phenomenal, particularly blueberry. And any foods that you can incorporate berries in. What I'd like to see is like our desserts, peach cobbler. What family reunion doesn't have peach cobbler? They had peaches because that's what we were able to get from the tree at the time. Let's try blueberry cobblers. Your same recipe, whatever the family recipe was, using blueberries, half all-purpose flour, half in it with whole wheat flour, half the sugar, and a couple of applesauce. And you will have a phenomenal cobbler that's also heart healthy. That can be a family tradition going forward. You don't need the Patti LaBelle peach cobbler. You'll have this really healthy, fantastic blueberry cobbler.
Nice. Nice.
And for
Good
people
suggestion.
who have a difficult time taking water, which is a lot. A lot of people just can't drink water, they don't like the taste. Drop some
Mm-hmm.
blueberries in your water just for some effervescence, and I think you'll find that
Mm-hmm.
you're able to drink more that way. Even a lemon or a
Mm-hmm.
lime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that sounds
Greens
perfect.
are another food that is really unique to our cultural experience, and we're typically prepared them with a lot of pork, salt pork, pickled pork. Greens are still a wonderful food, but we need to look at modifying how we prepare it. Let's chop them up, saute them, use a little apple cider vinegar, some crushed red pepper, saute it up, and maybe just a little lemon juice, and eat it that way. Why we make greens a less desirable food is we overcook them and then we put too much fat
Mm-hmm.
in it. Soul
Mm-hmm.
food will still be wonderful with half the fat, half the salt, half the sugar.
Nice. Nice. Still good. Still good.
Still good. Still
Yep,
good.
absolutely. That's all that matters. With some tomato and some onion on top of it. Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right. So, another question, and please excuse me because the first half of your question, I'm not sure if I can pronounce those words well, so I'm going to go to the second half of your question, and that is, I have had cartilage tears on both knees. Um, is there any other food that might be helpful for this?
Again, vitamin D and calcium.
Mm-hmm.
Protein is a wonderful wound healer. So if we combine those three vitamin minerals and the macronutrient, you want to try beef liver. I know a lot of people don't like that. Again, green leafies, tuna, salmon, cruciferous vegetables, and balance in moderation. The tears sometimes are caused from, I don't know in this instance, but then sometimes they're caused from carrying excessive weight. If you would make these small modification changes, then you would reduce the weight on top of your knees.
Excellent. Okay, so
And
what do you think
continue to
about?
go. Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you had a follow up to that, so I'll let you do that. Then I'm gonna give you another question.
Okay. I'm still going down my list of appropriate foods.
Okay.
Another is a spice and not necessarily a food, and it's called
Mm-hmm.
turmeric. And it's primarily an Indian spice, and you will probably know it from curries, but it is a wonderful spice to help with anti inflammatory products, the
Mm-hmm.
process. And how you use this is in any kind of cooked vegetables. I usually sprinkle a little bit in my water for the day so my water is not clear, it's like a burnt orange color. I sprinkle it on my scrambled eggs in the morning. You don't even notice it. So my scrambled eggs have chia seeds and turmeric. You can't even tell. But these are little changes that have a big impact.
Okay, I'm gonna try that one. The chia seeds and turmeric on my eggs. I also
Oh,
drink
it's
a
wonderful.
turmeric. Okay, I'm gonna let you know how I feel about that. That sounds
Okay.
delicious. Though. I do drink a turmeric tea. What do you think of that?
I think it's wonderful. I really try to stay away from buying them made. I make my own, like a glass of water and
Mm-hmm.
turmeric. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of
Mm-hmm.
fruit juices, I try to encourage the same because they have a tendency to raise your blood sugar. They're just simple sugars versus
Mm-hmm.
real whole food. So
Mm-hmm.
when I do buy orange juice, I always dilute it. I don't buy the low sugar juice. I buy the natural versions of most
Mm.
things. Maybe not cheese and milk, but most things I do, and then dilute it myself. It's cheaper that way also.
Excellent. Okay, I was trying to see if we had anything else, other questions in. Okay, is it
Well,
true
while you're
that
looking,
after?
okay.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, extra virgin olive oil. That's the big one from the Mediterranean diet.
Mm-hmm.
Seniors don't want olive oil. They don't want their foods prepared with olive oil. They say they can taste it. I don't know, but it is a wonderful oil to use. And what I
Mm-hmm.
find is in parts of our culture, the potato salad is just like the dish. Who's making the potato salad?
Right. Right.
Well, if you had a choice between a spicy yellow potato salad with eggs and um, diced pickles, sweet relish, versus a bowl of white potato salad with raisins and carrots, which one would you choose? We instinctively know what's going to be the better potato salad. How
Right.
we get that spicy potato salad better or more nutrient dense or healthful, Hellman's has olive oil mayonnaise. You can hardly tell that it's different. Make your potato salad with that minor adjustment, and you've cut half the fat and boosted the nutrient density of that one particular item.
Got to get creative.
You got to get creative and keep it familiar. Get creative,
Uh-huh.
but keep it familiar.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so is it true that apple juice with water can break gallstones? Do you know anything about that?
I've never heard of that, but apple juice is a wonderful fruit juice if you dilute it. It's very, very sweet on its own. It has a tendency to raise the blood sugar on its own,
Mm-hmm. What
but I
about
haven't heard of its properties with gallbladder.
what about apple cider vinegar? What are your thoughts on that?
Apple cider vinegar helps brighten our green leafies. Our green leafies are very bitter by nature. Swiss chard, bok choy, collards, and turnips. If we want to
Mm-hmm.
get away, our ancestors used pork fat because it cut the bitterness. I use apple
Mm.
cider vinegar to do the same thing, and you
Oh,
don't need
okay.
meat in it. Something else
Nice.
that you can put in your greens if you're used to having smoked, flavored smoked necks and bones and ham bones and things of that nature, which I certainly grew up on as well. But
Mhm.
when you know better, you do better. There's a
Right.
product called hickory liquid smoke, and you put two
Mm.
tablespoons of that, and you cannot tell the greens have been prepared without meat.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. So how much of the I just gotta ask real quick. How much of the apple cider vinegar do you put in your greens?
2 tablespoons. It depends on the volume that I'm making, but at least two
Mhm.
tablespoons. And sometimes you
Okay.
need a little brown sugar that doesn't cut all the taste. Or you can use lemon juice.
Mm. Hmm. Interesting. All right. So I know that you've been clicking down some of our favorite soul foods, and giving some alternatives. So what are some others that you can think of?
Let's see what I have
Oh,
here.
you have a list there.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, for foods that we normally eat. Did we talk about macaroni and cheese?
No, he didn't.
Okay, macaroni and cheese is a staple of every family reunion as well. You can transition it. I don't make more than one or two changes to any dish. So I'm just going to give you possible substitutions throughout the dish. Instead of regular pasta, you can use a whole wheat pasta. You can use a bean pasta. They have a chickpea pasta that you can use. That would be a
Mhm.
significant change. In terms of the cheese, you could use reduced fat cheese in the dish as well. Skim milk versus regular milk. You're going to use a little butter. And for those that use evaporated milk, there is a fat free evaporated milk. Now, if you
Mhm.
make two changes, you'll notice that it's different, but it will still be flavorful. Don't make more than three changes. Do the whole wheat pasta, the reduced fat cheese, the reduced fat milk, because it's not going to taste. You're not going to win anyone asking for a take home plate. So, one or two changes each dish.
Okay. Well, that's a good suggestion. I didn't think about that because usually when someone says, "Okay, I have an alternative to your macaroni and cheese," It's all in. They go all in, and it's all these different
Yeah.
changes. But just making a couple of minor changes could make a difference.
Yes. And
Mhm.
it's important for people to realize the food won't taste the same. That's probably the number
Mhm.
one. I don't like it. Doesn't taste like Big
Grandma's.
Mama's macaroni and cheese. Well, it's not going to, but it will still be good. And just like we
Hmm.
acquire a taste for anything else, it may take a couple of times. Some people just
Hmm.
won't try it again. And that's
Right.
understandable. Maybe they're willing to make an adjustment in another area,
Hmm. Hmm.
like
Yeah.
giving up sweetened drinks, sweet and iced tea.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah. And
And
like you said, it's
and
an
something
adjustment.
else to remember is the fewer changes you need to make, the slower your results will be. And that's where people get really frustrated sometimes. They want it to happen
Hmm.
very, very quickly, but
Hmm.
it's slow. It's a slow
Hmm.
process.
Hmm. Understandable. Yeah, you want that immediate gratification, but at the same time, we also, even though it may not taste the way your mother made it or grandmother made it, but we are here to try to stay here a little longer, eat a little healthier, and like I said, a better quality of life where you know we don't have the disease, the diabetes and the heart disease and all the other things that come with it. So making those adjustments is really not, it's worth the benefit. It's worth the benefit.
And
Hmm.
it's never too late. We're living till 85, 95. It is not too late in your 60s to start making valuable changes to your health. It's not too late.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Hey, we got another question here, and that is, any recommendations for getting enough vitamin D without staying in sun too long? If I can't drink milk.
Oh, and that is a big one. If you go to your primary care and your vitamin D level is low, they may actually prescribe you something to help with that because it is very difficult to get your vitamin D level up through diet
Hmm.
alone. And the uptake is increased with calcium. Diets that are
Hmm.
high in sodium leak calcium. So you have all of
Hmm.
these confounding processes going on, and you're trying to get your vitamin D level up. One of the
Hmm.
side effects of a low vitamin D level is being anxious or having anxiety or being depressed, and then your mood is low. You don't feel like making the changes with your diet. It is just a really horrible cycle. In terms of the
Hmm.
vitamin D foods, other than the fatty fish, the green leafy vegetables, and the milk, you can have the option of using a lactate milk, and then some people are able to tolerate fluid milk. When you're
Hmm.
lactose intolerant, there are degrees of it. Some people can't tolerate fluid milk. Some people can't tolerate ice cream. Some people can't tolerate cheese or anything. And only you will know what your level of tolerance is. But just if it's fluid milk, sometimes a lactase enzyme will help that before you get ready to drink it.
What about a vitamin D supplement? And how many IUs should you have per day?
They're based on age, but 2000 IUs is good, but I really don't like to recommend any type of supplementation until you check with your physician because there could
Hmm.
be some other outstanding or factor that I'm not aware of.
Okay. Hmm. Excellent. Yeah, the vitamin D is extremely important, especially for our community. And I know that the deficiency has been a big problem with most folks.
And I tell you, during the pandemic, we had a standing order for vitamin D supplementation and zinc supplementation for everyone in the facilities. It was that
Hmm.
impactful because it alters your immune system. It keeps you from
Hmm.
having colds and flus, which we didn't see much of this year anyway. But going
Hmm.
forward, it's something that you really want to consider
Hmm.
because of the
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be where we were outside and we were getting that sunlight and and eating our leafy vegetables, and it wasn't an issue. But we're not outdoors as much as we used to be. At least a lot of us, and Yeah, the pandemic didn't help with that. Talk a little bit about zinc. How does zinc? What properties does that bring?
Zinc is another good one for your immune system. Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, vitamin D and zinc. The foods across the board are almost all the same that increase
Mm-hmm.
your um, anti-inflammatory properties, reduce your cancer risk, reduce heart disease, reduce obesity, diabetes, green leafy vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
tomatoes, berries. Zinc is also found in some cheeses.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Huh. Okay. Also, any recommendations for foods as far as joint pain, assist with joint pain?
You know, those are the ones that we talked about in terms of arthritis and joint pain and the
Mm-hmm.
inflammatory. Turmeric, number one. The
Mm-hmm.
berries, omega-3 high fat foods, which are your fatty fish,
Mm-hmm.
green tea, peppers. Back when our ancestors had gardens, anything you would grow in a
Yeah.
garden is ideal.
Mhm. Nice.
Ideal. When we
I
grew our
do.
own fresh fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we need to get back to that.
And drinking water. And
And
again,
drinking
drinking
our
water
water.
as well.
Yeah, definitely. Last year I started a small container garden on my patio.
Oh,
And as
nice.
a project, just something fun. And it turned out to be a lot of fun and very relaxing. And it did yield a lot of peppers and tomatoes and things of that nature. And I felt like my dad and my grandpa. So it was a lot of fun. So try it, everyone. It is a lot of fun.
It is.
Let's see if we have any other questions. I don't see anything. Oh, wow, this has been a great discussion. It really has. Did we miss anything, Yolanda, that we were going to cover tonight?
You have a question
I don't
question
think so.
on you have a
We
question
have,
on YouTube.
oh, yeah? Okay, great. Hey, Mike, why don't you read it for us? What's the question?
Is zinc in sheep cheese? I can't do dairy at all. I am not familiar with sheep cheese. I will research that and get back to you. I don't know.
Okay, all righty. Sounds good. Okay, and then you can send that to us and we'll put it up on our website. I mean, on our
Sounds good.
social media page. Yep, sounds
Sounds
good. All right. Well, this has been an awesome discussion. What I always ask is maybe, just some closing remarks, Yolanda, things that you want people to remember and take heed as they're going forward, and especially with the holiday coming up. And I know we're all planning a little barbecue or something like that. What are some of the healthy things that
Let's
we can
see.
eat and still have a good time?
Did you know you can grill greens? You can grill collards, you can grill mustards. Who knew? I know people grill watermelon or peaches. You can grill tomatoes, all of your fruits, you can and vegetables, everything we talked about. You can put it on the grill. You can skewer your berries and grill them and put them on the grill.
Hmm.
Eat less meat, whole wheat buns, whole wheat hot dog buns. And just in closing, I think Michael Pollan says it best. He's a author, archaeologist, and food connoisseur. And he basically says eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And that will
Nice.
cover a wealth of information. It's that
Wow.
simple. We make it more complicated than it needs to be. Focus on your food preparation and enjoy your meals. Enjoy food. Food
Mhm.
is wonderful. It's just in the preparation.
Mhm. Wow, and that's the thing, like you said, it's just that simple. I mean, and it's interesting for those who are, come and join us every week. It always comes back to the leafy greens and the water And I love how you brought up how we prepare our foods as well. So we can still have a good time over the holiday weekend and still eat healthy. Is that what you're telling us, Yolanda?
Yes, yes. Try some grilled greens.
I gotta try that. Okay, so before we go,
A little
tell us
olive
all.
oil, red pepper flakes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay, so olive
You need a
oil
little
and red
olive oil
pepper. Okay, and then put it on the
and
grill.
garlic powder,
Uh-huh.
onion powder, and use one of those little grilling baskets and put it on the grill.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm going to try that. That sounds awesome.
Try it.
Well,
Try it.
thank you, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you
Thank
everyone for
you.
your
Thank
questions
you.
in the chat. That was awesome. You kept Yolanda on her toes. She had all kind of questions tonight. That was awesome. Thank you all,
That's
and
great.
have a
And it's because you guys have generated the focus of people want to know, and that's what's important, that
wonderful.
they have a resource to go to.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we want to do. Try to give them a resource, give everyone a resource. And, the thing is keeping it simple. I love that part that at the end. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. It really doesn't. So thank you again. And
All right.
everyone, have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you next week.